everybody, Rob Endsley here from the Outdoor Line at 710 ESPN Seattle. We get a lot of questions about monofilament, just straight monofilament versus fluorocarbon here at the Outdoor Line. So I just wanted to spend just a little bit of time to talk about both and where each line type might work better than the other. If you were to look at monofilament under a microscope, you would actually see little air bubbles entrained in the line, little microscopic air bubbles. That's why when you cast out with monofilament, opening day of trout season, wherever you're fishing, that's why it floats on the surface before it breaks the surface tension and starts to sink. It's actually a little bit buoyant, maybe a little more neutrally buoyant than fluorocarbon because of those little air bubbles in there, and that's why fish can see it also a little bit better than fluorocarbon because the light refracts off those little air bubbles and makes it somewhat visible to fish underwater. Fluorocarbon, however, is pure extruded monofilament. There are no air bubbles in this. That's why it's almost invisible underwater to fish. Now there's a few places where you don't want to use fluorocarbon line because it's pure, because there's no air bubbles in there, it actually sinks, okay? Because it sinks, you don't want to use it, let's say side drifting for steelhead. As you're drifting along down the river, it's going to continue to sink. And if you want to lose a lot of gear, let me tell you something, use fluorocarbon line. Drift fishing too for steelhead. I really don't like it for drift fishing because it's going to fall down into the rocks eventually and you're going to lose more gear. It does work good, let's say bobber fishing for steelhead, where you're just trying to present something to them nice and light in low and clear water conditions. Bobber fishing is good. Trolling, of course, is good. A lot of guys running 40 and 50 pound fluorocarbon on their trolling gear between their flasher and their hoochie or their spoon. Works great in that application. You don't want to use it side drifting. I mentioned that if you're fishing for trout on the lake. A lot of people using the fire baits and the power baits and that stuff on the bottom. If you use fluorocarbon line, it will sink to the bottom and your bait will actually be sitting right on the bottom. Okay, you want that bait to float up. You want to run monofilament line when you're doing that, you folks that go to the lake. Another great area where you can use fluorocarbon line obviously is fly fishing too. A lot of folks out there fly fishing for steelhead right now. It's a great material for that, and it also helps you get down just a little bit more too. Of course, working the lake, trolling on the lake, any of your lake fishing stuff, outside of sitting on the bottom, it works really well. So there you go. There's a couple of differences between monofilament line and of course fluorocarbon line. This is Seagar. I'm a big fan of Seagar line. It's all I use. I've used a lot of different fluorocarbons. It's a little more expensive, but well worth the price. So there's a little tip for you on monofilament versus fluorocarbon. I'm Rob Endsley from the Outdoor Line, and thanks for tuning in to this last cast video segment.